Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the lawsuit involving Lisa Cook and her challenge to the administration's efforts to fire her as a governor of the Fed, one of the seven-person governor board, which if Trump did it, and this would be the reason he wants to do it, of course, it would shift the kind of political control and make it a majority Trump body. So this is important for many more reasons than just Cook herself. The Fed is this venerable body, as everyone knows, that sets monetary policy and is really a kind of foundation of the U.S.'s leadership in the world. Its independence and expertise really have never been questioned, and for really important reasons. So the Supreme Court, and we've talked about some of these cases before, has trimmed back on the ability of Congress. Trimmed back is really an understatement. Has nearly completely done away with the ability of Congress to say certain heads of agencies or boards of agencies, the president can't just willy-nilly fire. There has to be cause, a good reason to do it. And that is the essence of what makes independent agencies independent. So we've had this whole system flourishing, of course, in the New Deal era and since, but that's always stuck in the craw of certain conservative unitary executive types who say that's just doesn't fit anywhere within the constitutional scheme to have heads of agencies that the president can't fire. And that proposition has been sorely tested and trimmed back, as I said, by the Supreme Court in these last few years. And it hangs by a thread, and that thread is called Humphrey's Executor. And that's a case in which the court said Congress's for-cause limitation is good. And as they've explained since, the agency in that case has a multi-member board, so not too much power in one person, and it's not doing prosecutorial functions. So the court has preserved that final vestige of saying there are still some agencies that can remain independent. The final frontier here, the Fed, because in one of its shadow docket cases in the last couple months, the Wilcox case, the Supreme Court basically said, everything we've been telling you about Humphrey's Executor and the ability of some agencies to be independent, guess what? We don't think it's true. We think we're going to overrule it. That's basically what they said, and in not very well reasoned fashion, and that's how the shadow docket works. All right, so they said in that case, it looks like the Humphrey's Executor case itself may be going by the boards, but there's one final last stand for independent agencies, and that's the Fed. And the reason the court gave for keeping the Fed is basically, it's a very important, long-standing tradition and history. Not very persuasive at all, but basically I think it's, we can't let Donald Trump fire and replace the Fed. That would be complete economic bedlam to the world. But that's not a very good constitutional reason, right? So we have this now collision, the very sort of last remaining nub of independence is with the Fed, just because that's what the Supreme Court said in the Wilcox case. And now comes Trump to test it with Lisa Cook and to fire her. Okay, the case had a big hearing yesterday, and there'll be a decision in it in the next several days, I think. But it's got a issue on the facts and an issue on the law. The issue on the law is what I was saying, Will the Supreme Court, even though it seems not very consistent with everything else they've been saying about other agencies, will they say, well, the Fed, it's a special thing. We can't change a hair on its head, and the president still has to be hands off to a certain extent. That's the looming issue. And if they were to say, forget everything we said, even the Fed, the president can do for whatever reason the president wants to, that would be a real revolution in constitutional law, but also just sort of a practical revolution that would undo the whole kind of bounty and progress of the administrative state. So that issue is looming there. But what's really up now in the district court is Cook has come in and said the law remains that you have to have cause. That's until the Supreme Court changes that. You can't just do away with that. The district court will apply it. And moreover, this isn't cause. So what is this? And this is the immediate issue that's being played out now. Trump has his sort of henchman whom he's installed to be over Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, the kind of mortgage industry. Who he's been this guy, the sort of enforcer or tough guy on the accusations against recently Adam Schiff, Letitia James, and now Lisa Cook for what? Supposed mortgage fraud. And why is that? Because, and this turns out to be a fairly common thing. It's not kosher generally, but there are times when it can be. Cook had took out mortgages on 2 properties, each of which she represented was a primary residence. Now, we haven't gotten to the whole facts and her playing it out yet. There are times involving when you buy something or if you're moving somewhere where that can be a copacetic state of affairs. And it may turn out to be. But her main submission is, I don't care, even if, first, says Cook, we never committed mortgage fraud, and that I want a hearing to say so. And therefore, this wouldn't be legitimate cause. And so you should undo my firing and enjoin them from doing it. But in addition, it turns out that the mortgages and all the information were part of Cook's initial application when she joined the Fed. She's got a 14-year term that goes until 2038, and they knew it. They had all the paperwork, which I think tends to show that it's really a pretext, and that's of course kind of a specialty of Trump, but also that it's just now trying to cook it up. But if as Cook said in court yesterday, look, if this was already there, then how can it be cause now when I was chosen and installed? And the administration basically conceded that does make it harder for them. So the immediate focus in the case is going to be, does this count as cause? Because there is a body of law involving cause. Some statutes that require cause really spell it out, different reasons. Others just say cause. Trump is trying to say if it just says cause, anything goes, whatever I want counts. Cook is saying, it's still a judicial question. What counts for cause? There's a basic standard of malfeasance or neglect. And that's what has to be shown in order to get there. And this just doesn't count. In fact, this is so lightweight, and again, it preceded my appointment, that it is, if this is something that Trump can use for cause, then anything goes, including, and this is supposedly the one sort of point that everyone agrees with, cause could never be a policy disagreement. That's, the sort of heart and soul of the independence of the Fed, is they get to decide for reasons of their own professional calculations what sorts of monetary adjustments to make. And if you could do this, Trump, says Lisa Cook, then there's nothing to prevent it from being just a mere policy difference. So, okay, again, the big point here is just it so happens that with everything that has transpired with the Supreme Court and the trimming back of the independent agencies, this is the sort of remaining question. Will the court lop off even the for-cause proviso with the Fed? And all that could mean as a practical matter, basically just everything out the window. It would really be a game changer from the last 90 years. But then separately and first, can a little thing like this be cause, or do you really have to come up with something better? And must you give, which they didn't do here, again, very Trumpian, notice an opportunity to be heard? There was just basically this social media by the Trump henchmen saying, we want to go after her because she's committed mortgage fraud. So that'll be the immediate focus of a district court opinion that I think ought to issue within the next week. And depending on how it goes, we'll then work up and potentially present the broader constitutional law question of, is anything left, basically, of the administrative state? Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.